in the SUV in Tanzania where we went to, that cannot happen. We went to Merorani, the place is fenced off. So everybody has their place in that fenced place. So you can't just go pick any parcel of land and start digging, to the extent that people can go and dig in school compounds and blast the place while people are learning. And I think that struck me, that they can organize themselves in such a way as not to destroy the environment, that people cannot just go digging. And if you remember, I asked them how I didn't see any Chinese. And one of the guys told me that, yeah, some Chinese came around, but they gave them terms on which they could work, and they didn't find the terms favorable. So the Chinese we saw on the streets of Arusha were selling ice cream and not involved in they're not involved in small scale mining. So there was no one Chinese at the place, and I think that was very illuminating. And I was particularly excited when we went to the institute where they cut the mine, they cut the Tanzanite. In that institute, and you were not with us, unfortunately.
You're still fortunate on the other side.
You have young people who come and spend 4, 5, 6 months in the institute there, and they learn how to cut the mineral. They do value addition, and I felt that was very exciting. And I don't actually said I was going to find out whether we have a functioning institution in Ghana here where we do similar things with our goal, that people can acquire local knowledge, that they can take the mineral and refine it and make it usable.
So we saw the entire value chain happening within the same.
And also the bit about the technology that actually eliminated mine accidents and stuff like that. Yeah. They also have the 45 degrees technology that makes sure. And the response from, even though maybe because they have a control system where the government was not comfortable with the fact that people go to the mine and die. So they use their own, I'm told their own engineers actually design the system, which seems they have not recorded any fatalities.
But even more exciting for me was the involvement of the religious leaders. You remember this woman who came? They have a coalition, faith-based organization, coalition of these organizations who actually go to the mining areas and hold the government accountable for its actions. And they can actually hold the companies to a meeting and insist that action that you have taken have a negative impact on the livelihoods of people in this area, and you have to compensate them. They spend money to bring people to go and do investigations and give them concrete information on the basis of which they can confront government and the companies. And I find that adequate compensation for people who have been displaced on account of mining and other exploration activities. I think that would help. Unfortunately, we don't have that. Given the kind of strong religious leaders that we have, if they formed such an organization, they probably would do better than the civil society organizations as far as holding government accountable is concerned.
Okay, I'll ask you that.
Build contacts with colleague journalists from Tanzania and Uganda. Also, the court afforded me the opportunity to reunite with my classmates in Tanzania. We met in India Institute of Mass Communication.
Right.
Last killer.
Right, you know how the last killer.
Our chair leader. Good to see you.
But I also think that we didn't mention the resource persons during the workshop.
Yeah.
That's the classroom thing. That at the beginning, we were talking about building our knowledge.
God can just remember something that we picked up from the various modules, the various presentations that happened. See, maybe if you have ever applied any of those in your writings or in explaining to somebody something.
I remember, I don't remember the exact topic, but in one of the presentations, the mining companies and I think government were presented in this light as boxers, or people going into a boxing ring, where everybody
knows the players and the
players and then the game. So it's kind of like a game where everybody is coming on board with their best players or best foot forward. So government hopes to make the best out of the deal. The company also hopes to make the best out of the deal. I got the impression that as we all used to think that once the company is mining, the company then becomes the bad guy. But then that is not necessarily the case. They want to make their profit as a business company or a business entity. Government is also hoping to make the best out of it for the country or the nation. So if the company comes, they present whatever bid they have. There might be underpinnings to each side. Maybe what they really intend they will not bring on board, but they're hoping to present a deal that would appeal to government to give them the bid so they can make the best out of it. It is in the long run that you might probably be able to pinpoint the exact thing that they're doing as in keeping to the rules and the regulations. But as it's a game, and in a game of football, we all know you present your best on the pitch and hope to win in the long run. That is one of the things that I think still rings a bell.
Okay. So they are there for their interest. So it's how the interest play out.
In fact, that helped me to kind of put in perspective the contestations over some parts of the offshore projects that Ivory Coast now are contesting for. In my searches, somebody hinted me that the Total is actually one of the companies that is funding everything. And they are hiring big law firms in the US and other places. They have, in actual fact, redesigned the map of the area in order to enhance their stance when it comes to litigating over the issue. And I remember when Fred, the Ugandan Fred, not the rebellious Fred, when Fred said that Taberi, is it Taberi? When he said that the companies want to make money, whatever they can do to make money legally, they will do. So that's what Total is doing. Is hiring law firms and raising money and pushing Ivory Coast because they know that if Ivory Coast wins, they win. Because they will be given to them.
The interest there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's the top. That's another recent issue that you can see the play out of the game and the players. Who would like to do that? One of the recent issues, oil and gas. Yes, in Ghana. Now you see a play out of
Ivory Coast and
the players and not in Ghana. Essentially a conflict. What I'm talking about, conflict. Yeah. Of what the players want in this game. I'm sure you know just that. Not drawing your mind.
It has to do with if you create conflict, you gain.
The decision starts with the decision to either extract or not to extract. And sometimes it's a very dicey. Some wants to wait and then ensure that all the structures are in place before you mine. And then there are others who say that let's start, we will build our structures and get things in place as and when they are needed. And then he took us through with getting the policies in place and then awarding contract or licenses and then finally to where we produce.
Yeah, okay. So I think you have pretty much Uganda is trying to put all this, including even they want to even put their refinery in place before they start production. I mean that extent to which they're moving, and Museveni sounds very resolutive in doing that. So that's the issue of the money chain. There's one other issue that we look at under the money trail, which again is playing out now. The various local contents then. I don't know if any of you.
Like where I work in the parts of the country, we don't base much on the oil and gas, but many like food and other things. And that reminds me of when it was said that mostly when it comes to small scale mining and whatever it is, it has been given to the local people. No foreigner is supposed to be part of the mining. We spoke about it there. And when we came back to it's like that in my area, a lot of conflicts has been going on because one of the huge mining sites in the Upper East region is being controlled by the Chinese people. And they came as people who were coming to offer just services to the local people. But they end up building a building which has 3 times as this, covering the whole of the small scale, so everything is in there. And since they are not supposed to use cyanide and other things in such mining and the small scale mining, they say close, whatever is going on there, you don't know much. And others are accusing that they are using cyanide and there was even a case where some people, cattle started dying and then sheep and animals started dying before we went in. So I then came out with a program, 3-month series program for the radio program that I said, dating the resource case. And then the mining commissioner there was the main panel, and he said a lot about it. And he really explained with the EPA. I think I've sent some voices to you.
Okay. One of the benefits of such direction is to share. So that once we've done all of this, we share with some other colleagues, we also publish it and it gets wider attention. So that's the other thing. So I was asking about, can anybody say anything in relation to stabilization clause and then the local content issue? That is any linkage between, you remember the stabilization clause, right? Under the monetary, remember that? We all remember. Specific to stabilization. Now, one of the issues that the oil companies are raising, that there's a conflict between the stabilization clauses that they have in the agreements and then what is in the local content. That's one of the points they're raising. I remember the minister saying that, look, this is an airline, so it supersedes the stabilization clause, which is in the agreement. So that's also another area of conflict. And I remember we saying that a lot of the times the agreement, they put in clauses that will lock up the country. So that for several years you are unable to change, even when you see that you could have benefits, you can derive more benefits, they will tell you, hey, you signed the stabilization clause, you're locked up. It's happening with our mining companies. Government was asking for windfall profits. They want to raise the royalty rate and all of that. And the big guy says, no, we have a stabilization agreement with you, so you can't touch it. So we made projections for that in our budgets that we're going to get X amount of money. And mining companies said we won't pay, and we made a loss. So then they also contributed to our deficit widening. So that's another major thing that we should take note of. Any other thing that we're putting up for Tanzania? License, contracts, local content, money trail, the bidding process and all of that.
Yeah,
Do you have any of the winning groups? Anybody from the group that
So
won?
this man, he
No,
led the corrupt
he was
team.
the
He led the corrupt
And
team.
We won.
They took the oil and the bribe.
And they selected
Because he gave them that
We
the
start oil.
copy.
We represented.
They eliminated.
We should have won.
Moses eliminated me, and then they gave us.
Okay, so what other thing do you remember from Tanzania?
The food was wonderful.
No, okra and rice.
That's nice.
Combinations were
Cocoyam for breakfast.
Cocoyam for breakfast.
Why not? Something nice every time.
And also, you see, they
But you don't eat rice every day.
What they,
That's no.
everything we ate is from Tanzania. They actually their own
One of
food.
the issues was also land system and how government is also supporting the small scale sector mining. And when we went to the mining commissioner, some of the machines the government will bring in and subsidize, give it to them, and they will be paying in bits. And those are some of the things that I also remember from there. So in such mining program, when I asked our mining commissioner, he also said government has the plans to support the small scale miners, but it's still in the pipeline. I think that's why our pipelines are choked.
We also mentioned, let me just a quick sort of, we mentioned some legal ways that oil companies use in taking money from the resource country or reducing the amount of money they will have to give to the government of that country. Can you remember any of those terms, or even if you can't remember the terms, if you can explain some of those ways that those things are done?
I think I remember something concerning some of the companies doing part of some deals to say sister organizations. Maybe it's one big company, they have smaller subsidiaries of the main company. So instead of not taking everything to themselves, they'll throw that bid over to the smaller ones, so the money will still come into. It still benefits the company in a whole, but in the eyes of everybody, they are not the ones receiving the money. It's going to the smaller.
Okay. You've explained part of it. There's an essential part of what you're explaining that I missed.
The essential part is inflating costs.
Transfer.
That's transfer prices.
It's called transfer price. So they are either inflating the costs or reducing the fee. So depending on which case, they use that to reduce the money that's to pay to government. That's one. Which other one?
Just before then, do we have a transfer pricing law in Ghana or not?
I think they mentioned it over there that most of the countries are now trying to adopt that. You will not be allowed, let's say, this is Yaba. Then I said my subsidiary is Malik. Then I'm supposed to buy this projector for 5 cedis. I'll go to Malik. Malik will inflate the price and make it 20 cedis. But they are trying to institute to prevent such cases.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But not all the countries.
No, I'm saying Ghana. I'm talking about Ghana. Do we have that law or not? So,
I don't remember.
okay, because
Any of my-
That was mentioned in Tanzania.
there was an attempt to do that, so we need to follow up.
There is.
They organized a meeting.
Yeah, there is a provision in the revenue management law that defines how prices are determined. Remember the arm's length? Mention arm's length. Trading at arm's length. When you are selling a product to a company that you are related with, then they will not use the price that you bring, but they will use the prevailing price on the world market.
Yes.
Okay, so if Talo is selling oil to a company and that company is related to Talo, will not accept the price that Talo will bring, but will use the prevailing world market price to determine, to calculate it. So that is to check the price, the transfer pricing. Otherwise, Talo we sold it for only $70 per barrel. So okay, that's $70 per barrel, but we are taking $100 per barrel, not a 70 you are claiming. So that we have that provision in our revenue management law to check the transfer price. So that's what they call arm's length if you're selling to a regulated system. Any of the jargons that I remember? That's the one that's not mentioned. I think initially somebody mentioned it here. Passage. One of the techniques that are employed to think capitalization. Do you remember what that means?
And that's when the companies come in and say that maybe we need this capital, but we don't have it, so we are going to borrow from the bank, and that is
Borrowing from themselves.
Yeah, that's positive. I mean, we've not forgotten the food is not covered all the ugali that we ate, right? Still have the ugali in there. Yeah, so that's when a company will borrow heavily. And usually they'll borrow from a related company. So then let's use Talo. Talo is UK based, okay? So maybe Talo Ghana, they are, maybe let's assume their rates or whatever they do, they will get it from another company within the Talo group, okay? But all of that will be treated as cost. So then Talo, at the end of the day in Ghana, will declare loss.
In Uganda, they will declare loss.
In Uganda, they will declare loss.
But generally,
meanwhile, all the things that they bought from another Talo group, probably in the UK. So at the end of the day, whilst they declare losses in all these African countries, they declare profits with a mother group in the UK. So they will benefit. Ghana will not get any tax because they make loss. Uganda will not get any tax because they make losses. And that's what Google and Co were doing. So they were not paying profit, they were not paying taxes in the countries where they were operating. And yet, they were making huge profits in their home country and then having fat losses. It was a huge campaign. So they said, publish what you pay. That was a campaign. Publish what you pay. So that for each country or each company, you don't only publish the group results, but Talo in Ghana should publish what they pay in Ghana. They should publish what they pay in Uganda. So they will be able to determine whether you are engaging in transfer pricing or full capitalization and all of that. And I think that's one thing we also as journalists should push. Sadly, it is the US and the UK, they are campaigning for this. And we, those of us who are hard-hit, we are quite worried. It's like,
no, you don't. Many issues. As I've always indicated that we should focus on the owners of the media houses. Recently, there was a project, the 10th project, when the 10th project was actually announced, the TV3 carried news item, and I had a call. She said that they are likely to increase production after the completion, that was Cosmos, after the completion of the 10th project in 2016. And the reporter actually put a story that the Cosmos has developed new 10 wells, production wells. 10 production wells, which will increase production. So I had a call from Cosmos and I gave them a number to call. So if the story from the desk of the reporter to the sub, to the chief sub, and then to the final producer, they don't know that 10 is the Tunibua, Enyina, and then Tumi well. But they put the 10 as 10 developed wells that will be producing additional oil. Then we are nowhere near holding these people accountable because they laugh. So they have to correct the story, and they had met us recently and show us a story where a newspaper actually published that they had said they'll be relocating all the buildings at the Jubilee Field to pave way for the development of the project.
Oh, I see.
So, the Jubilee field is about 60 nautical miles offshore.
There are no buildings there.
So, if.
Journalists will write that.
Exactly. So,
that's a sad one. So, at least we should be happy we are part of this program so that we acquire that knowledge. I had a personal experience back in the days where there was a workshop on securities, so the stock exchange, those things. So during a break when we were trying to do some interviews, there was one other journalist. In fact, I wouldn't remember, I didn't really remember. I went and approached the main speaker and said, so what do you think we have to do to do the security of the country? Now we're talking about stock exchange. And he sat in the program. And we're talking about stocks, we're talking about capital, investment, shares, and all of that. And he was asking about the security of the country because there were securities. So again, for our job, fortunately for us, in our time we have Google. So if you're not clear on something, Google will approach the presenter and make sure you are clear on that. Otherwise, when you do that, they laugh at us. And in fact, they will just lump all of us together as non-entities. I think it's time for us to
smoke break.
Yes, go for a smoke break. Yeah.
Give me the story title. The title stands.
Ghana and 1.4 billion in revenue from oil.
4 billion.
Yeah.
Revenue?
Yeah. After exporting 77 million.
Yeah, it's still on the headline.
No, that is the headline.
Okay, so let's start that. Okay, Malik, what do you like about this headline?
Ghana earns 1.4 billion.
Is this something you want to read? Okay, think about it. Moses, what's the main idea for this story?
Just to tell the public how much came from the offshore operation since the first oil in 2010, and then how many barrels of oil was produced.
So since 2010 to when?
To 2012.
12.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're a period of 2 years, right?
Yeah. And
So
from 2010 to August ending 2013, we produced 77 million barrels.
Sorry, one step at a time. So this, no, is this from 2010 to 2013 or 2010 to 2012?
2010 to the first fire was in December. Yeah.
No, this 1 point
Yes.
is from when?
2010 to 2012.
Correct.
Yes.
But you are mentioning something again.
That till date,
Yeah.
we produced 77 million barrels.
No, I'm getting confused about to date and this date.
No. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
It's 2010 to August 2013.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
And we produced a total of 77 million barrels of crude.
77.
Yeah.
Million.
Million. Yeah.
Okay.
And Ghana's represented by GNPC share was 13 million barrels.
Okay. Sources.
So it's the Energy Ministry, Ministry of Finance,
Kineki.
Ministry, the Ministry of Finance,
Finance. Yeah.
as well as the Jubilee Partnership. Yeah.
That's it. Emilia, which other sources should be on the board? Chief. You have to. Who can help me out? Mr. Shambo. John.
The banker.
Yeah. So there should be a bank. Did you quote them?
No.
So it's important.
I did quote, but you know the story had to go through a lot of processes and
no, that's fine. But for high exercise, we can still mention.
Yeah. As well as the NGOs.
So as the CSOs.
CSOs.
So this is our addition, right?
Yeah.
Which other sources? Money. So there's a question become who is gaining from this and who is losing. So how do we get that angle or that source?
Something will be the CSOs.
They will speak on behalf of the citizens.
Because the CSOs are, they tend to have the capacity and they tend to be very interested in trailing these things, finding out how much money has been realized, and arguing as whether given the agreements, whether Ghana gained or Ghana lost.
Yeah, that's fine. But usually also the CSOs can do that, but it's also important to quote some voice. Okay. So to be interested if there was somebody in Ghana who actually got 10% of this, who is not a politician though. So that's one thing we can do explore about. Because I heard there's someone who is benefiting and who is losing. There's a lot of money. So that's one thing we have to look at if there is a particular source that's or it's not benefiting you. So do you true that in the story about where this money is going?
Yes, for developmental projects, and as well, there was several aspects that has to do with the fact that if you look at the revenue flow from the 2010, it was not that much. But a chunk of it came after the remedial works were done. So we tried to put it in a way that from 2010 there was an estimated daily production of 80 million barrels per day, and it dropped to about 66 million, which was a serious blow for the economy. And then remedial works had to be carried out before we ramp up to the current production level, which is currently 110,000 barrels. Yeah. So
you are throwing a lot of numbers at me though.
Yeah.
So you see, my question now becomes the impact. Are you okay? Impact, did this money, for example, help the local currency, the Ghana cedi, cushion it or not? So we need to draw those ones. Or an individual is benefiting, or a group of people are benefiting. Not the politicians telling though, but the impacts have to come out. Or the road, you can say that this road from where my village to the next village came because of this. So that's how.
Those are some of the difficulties because the issue that came up was where did the money go? And they talk about supporting infrastructure development, and they are not in a position to tell you which specific roads that were constructed as a result of the oil or these. So,
but your work, you have to find it.
Yeah, you have to find it, but it's.
I know the difficulties here.
They try to make you understand that it's for infrastructure development and it's this. But it's difficult to tell exactly because at the point I even wanted to know the issue of the carried interest and the incoming money and the projections for now that we are producing at 110,000 as well as the sulfur daily production, what is the total output and in terms of revenue for 2014 or 2013 because we started the 110 I think late last year. So what would be the revenue for this year, but they were now in a position, so it became a little bit difficult.
Okay.
And
So this story, what type of story is this?
no, it's actually a straight news.
So just straight news.
Yeah.
Malik?
Yeah, I think that barring the difficulties he had in finding out where the money actually went, that would have made the story more complete and more comprehensive. Because if I read the story and I found out, for example, that the Sola Fufu Suru, this amount of oil money went into it, or that